Hi guys, today I've got a very special guest with me, George Bounos from Iconic Studios. George is a model maker, a prop maker. He does this for a job, for a living. I met George a couple of years ago at Comic-Con. Just recently, he picked up an Incredafill kit, and every time I've spoken to George on the phone since, he's been telling me how much he loves Incredafill and how much he uses it, and he finds uses for it in his workshop on a day-to-day basis. But we'll get into that in a little bit. First of all, let's find out a little bit about you, George. Tell us about yourself and how it all started.
Well, it started a long time ago, doing some models and props for Lucasfilm as a promotional setup for the movies back in the late 70s. Built some models that were asked me to do for Star Wars. It sort of kind of kicked off from there and everything snowballed. I kind of fell into it.
So you've actually worked in the Star Wars film. Is it true you've met George Lucas?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, actually it's funny, we when George first came in, we actually said he looked like George Lucas, and to discover that he's actually met him.
You know, meeting George is like, hello, see you later,
yeah.
I'm gone.
Yeah, so no time for a coffee.
No, George was a very serious man. He was very, very focused in what he wanted to do, and it's interesting because the expectations were so high that we had no choice but to produce products that were going to be scrutinised by fans. So that takes you to the next level of prop making, yeah.
And so prop making must have changed a lot since you first started doing it. And what year did you start prop making?
Mid-80s.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it has changed a lot, I can imagine. And we've got the introduction of 3D printing now,
yes,
which I'm assuming you use a lot of.
Absolutely. I mean, I went from everything hands-on, literally cutting flat pack, styrene sheets, that type of setup, moulding and all those mediums, to 3D printers came out, and I went, fantastic, this is the way to go. I've got architectural engineering background as well, so for me to use a CAD program to generate parts which would take me days and days and days to physically make, to drawing something up which takes me about 10-20 minutes, put it onto the printer, walk away from it, a few hours later, there's the part I need, it's exactly what needs to be done.
You mentioned earlier that you CAD design. How important is that as part of 3D printing?
Oh, it's extremely important, because I still get fans and clients from time to time that they've probably downloaded a part and it kind of doesn't work, because look, there are a lot of people out there that are trying to invest their time into getting something done, but then they send me these files and they say, can you please mod these? And so I can make it work. So CAD comes into it once again. You can detract, add whatever you need to the part, and then off you go.
So tell us a little bit about some of these props you've got here. They're pretty impressive, and I'm assuming some of them are 3D printed and some are done the traditional way?
Well, obviously Vader here is a 3D print. He's been printed in ABS.
And that looks like it's been done in sections. And
it has. It's actually been done in quarters. And you can
have
see
a look, on the inside there.
On the inside.
And this is where Incredafill is going to come into its own, and we're going to show you that in a minute.
Absolutely. This is what the traditional sort of way of trying to fill anything with filings. Since Incredafill had come out, I can just do that in a few seconds rather than wait days for this little part to cure.
So what about this one?
Here's one of the hero props from episode 3. These are World War II hand grenade parts. This is a gas fitting. This is obviously a machine part in the later years because they could do it. This is a cog from, I don't know where they probably found this, but that's a UK tap handle.
Wow.
So there's, that's how George did it back in the day. Graflex clamp, an original clamp. I mean, you could take this off, it'll turn.
Obviously before 3D printing was a thing, it was all
practical. These were all practical parts, and if you like to hang on to that, you can actually feel the weight in it too.
Yeah, and it obviously helps the actor.
I mean, they're so pristine, you'd put them onto your belt and they'd hang there and you do your photo shoots. But in the films, something like that might, probably today might be 3D printed, or it would be rubber or whatever, depending on their fight scenes. If you remember in Empire Strikes Back, you have R2's little claw. I actually had the files for this, and I just simply 3D printed to replicate the part and show people this is what you can do. A little bit of weathering, a little bit of paint, and show people that you can make things look very realistic. The other medium here is fiberglassing, good old 3PO. The old mould has taken a bit of a beating over the years, but still, once again.
So that you can see on the inside there, that it's actually moulded with fiberglass.
But the beauty about this is that you can touch this up and still use Incredafill to fill all the little spots up, and you'd never know. And you can make this pristine again. Over here, we've got Yoda, and he's a slush cast with resin. You can have a mould which has got a silicon lining on the inside, and you do it in 2 parts. As you can see, the seam line that goes right across there. And what you do is once you have basically the mold together, you pour some resin inside and you literally rotate it and turn it till you get the thickness that you want.
It's quite lightweight, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, well, it's hollow actually, yeah.
Yes,
yeah, it's hollow. If you were to do this now, you'd 3D print it, I assume.
It's very practical to 3D print it, but you do have to spend some time because there's far too much detail on something like this. But what you can do with this is, once again, if you do get imperfections and whatnot, that's where this guy comes in. And on your finished product, you can make that look outstanding because you can literally do so much with it.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, cleaning up. And it sands very easily as well.
Exactly.
And this one I recognise from Indiana Jones.
Yes, definitely. Funnily enough, same way, except that's a solid pour. So he's actually got some weight behind him. This guy here, which I'm really keen to show you guys, that's actually a 3D print in ABS. And the beauty about this guy is that the joins, as you would see on Vader's helmet, which it was done in 4 parts, that was actually filled with Incredafill.
Okay, and the texture?
And the texture is, products you can buy from Bunnings.
I mean, you wouldn't know that was 3D printed looking at it. To be honest, I didn't know until George just told me that was 3D printed. So there you go. And that's where we're at now with 3D printing. People, a lot of the time, will think of, build lines and all the rest of it. With products like Incredafill, you can get rid of them.
It's versatile. It's extremely versatile across many medium. Working with, obviously, resins, plastic, even metals, for example, timber, whatnot, and I was able to marry 2 products together that normally you'd have to mechanically fix it. When you've only got thin surfaces, you're limited to the amount of mechanical fixtures you can put in there. So Incredafill came along, and next thing you know, I'm going, that's stuck. And next thing you know, you're able to put a lot of different things together and create better products.
So in the past, there was no product that you had that would stick both parts together like that?
No, you'd have to get like 2-part epoxies and all that sort of stuff, and even then, they never stood the test of time.
Well, Incredafill, as most of you guys know, is a very strong urethane base, and the urethane is famous for sticking to surfaces.
Absolutely.
You probably even tried sticking it to metal. It sticks quite well to metal as well. A bit of a light sand on the metal.
It's a light etch. That's all it takes. It's the lightest of things. Well, it's one of the best products I've found, that even when you're 3D printing and using your product, you might get a gap here or there of certain little bits and pieces that you didn't quite print it right or whatever. Incredafill, you wear a glove, get a little bit on your finger, smear it in. It saves you so much time and effort. I mean, you try getting a product, for example, and whether it's like Tamiya putty or whatnot. Tamiya putty shrinks. It takes time to dry if you apply it in certain thicknesses and whatnot, and it's actually more expensive for the same volume.
Yeah, because they come in very small pots.
Exactly.
I know there's some other stuff.
The tubes. They're like
tubes, yeah. Well, let's put some gloves on and let's get into it. Maybe we'll attack the helmet first and see. All right, so time to put some gloves. Oh, there you go. I've always loved that.
Movie magic.
Movie magic, that's it.
What does George say? Faster, more intense.
So the Incredafill kit, we've had a look at the tub. It's 350 grams of the paste. You've got the glasses, you've got the torch, the battery I've already put in the torch, and there's the charger and a few scrapers as well. So everything you need to get going with this.
So this is an interesting setup here. The reason I brought Vader's helmet in is because what I've done through here originally was all the shavings and sanding that I used to get these surfaces as smooth as I can. I'd re-put a product called Weld-On, and Weld-On is what glues the ABS together. And I'd whack that in there, and it would take a long time to dry because it melts it and welds it and all that sort of thing. Sure. And it's just so time consuming. And since Incredafill had come along, what I can do here is show you what happens. Just get a little bit, put it up in this little top section here, run it along like so. There's my torch, put a bit of UV light on it. Wow. That is 100% dry, and if you run your finger across the top of that, that is absolutely perfect.
Perfect. And yeah, I mean, look, it needs a light sand if you wanted to, but it's actually, I mean, that's what I like about Incredafill. You can keep working it until you're happy with it, and then cure it.
Absolutely. The thing is, what just took me about 30 seconds-ish to do, that down there, it takes me about 24 to 36 hours for that to completely cure. It's great. And there are other sections, for example, let's have a look here, in front of Vader's helmet. When you 3D print, even though I've sanded a little bit, you've still got little ridges and imperfections that are happening there. I've still got a little bit of Incredafill there. If I just sort of put that on, you can work it. And the best part about it is because you wear gloves when you do this, you can still run your finger across. Just cure him with the UV light. And once again, now when you put your finger over that, it's perfectly smooth.
And you can wet and dry
Yes.
Incredafill.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about it, because detail in my profession is paramount, especially when you've got Ultra HD these days and everyone zooms in and everyone wants to copy that prop. You've got to be absolutely precise.
It's got to be spot on, yeah. So what about this section here? You can see it's a little bit rough, obviously, the way that this was printed. You can see the
Yes.
layer lines up through here. So would you use that Incredafill to smooth that off as well?
Absolutely. You've actually got layer lines there and you've got layer lines across here. The good thing about the tool that you guys supply, it's flexible. Once again, get a little bit of Incredafill here. You can just literally, just like panel beaters do, you can follow the contour. Let me just get this down to there.
I touched on it before, but you could essentially leave that, as long as it wasn't in the light, you could leave that over the weekend and it still would be, if you said, oh, you know what, I don't want, you could wipe that off.
Absolutely.
And start again, or
Yeah.
you know, add to it or whatever. So as long as UV light doesn't hit that,
That's exactly right.
it doesn't cure. It's
Absolutely.
not like a two-part epoxy. There's no waste either, which is amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, 100%. So as we simulate this little chap here into UV light, now run your finger across the top there compared to over this side.
Oh yeah, you can really feel the, yeah, it's gone. And again, light sand, as you say, with an 80 grit or 100 grit paper.
Yeah, don't be afraid to use 80 grit because it's not as coarse as what you think.
And also, wouldn't a decent primer filler, that would fill the 80 grit lines anyway?
A decent primer filler, I mean, you've got to go high end. As long as you prepare the surface properly, you're going to get a great result. Just take your time and get to know the product, and I'll tell you something, I'll never look back.
Right, it's good to hear.
Fantastic.
Well, I really appreciate your time today, George, and showing us all these amazing props. And obviously, you've got a lot of uses for Incredafill, and
Yes.
really appreciate you taking the time coming and talking to us today. And
No,
to get you on the
fantastic, and it's my pleasure to be here, and it's great to support an Aussie company.
We're very proud Australian and are proud to have developed this product here, and we make it here. You can either buy just the refill pot if you already have a torch. I highly recommend using a torch like this.
Oh, it's great.
It's nice and powerful. It's got the 18650 battery and the charger that it comes with as well, which means that it's easy to recharge. Just once you start to see it go a little bit dull, you pop it on the charger, and yeah, everything else you need, including the glasses and everything else you need.
Yeah,
That's
so
great.
just remember safety first.
Safety first, yeah. So anyway, again, thanks George for your time. Great
No,
to see you,
my
and
pleasure.
come back again.